State's most watched news starts now.
Good Thursday morning. Welcome to the KOAM Morning News. We're going to jump into the Skywatch Storm Tracker, looking at just a little light rain down in northeast Oklahoma. Cloud cover pretty sporadic, and it's a chilly one outside, leading us to frost advisories for a handful of our northern counties, ranging all the way into north central Missouri. Temperatures right now much cooler than what we've had past couple of mornings, anywhere from 38 in Iola, 45 in Joplin. Let's roll 47 in Anderson. Progressively gets a little bit better as you dive down to the southeast, but the cold front now pushing all the way into southern Arkansas. Going to be chilly here for the next couple of days. Today, low 60s, about as good as we're going to get, and that's not going to happen until the afternoon with the increased cloud cover. And with the increased cloud cover comes what we've been anticipating on Friday. We got rain that generates out to the panhandles in central Kansas, sweeps through us. Tonight is when it begins, takes us all the way through Friday. Friday is going to be wet and cold. Look at that. It just keeps on rolling through into the Friday evening hours. Gets a little less widespread here on Saturday, but still low 50s until we get to a 55 on Sunday.
Get ready for a chilly weekend.
Yeah, and wet.
All right, we'll be prepared. All right, thanks, Michael. The Oklahoma Senate passes a bill centered on protests, igniting controversy as demonstrations continue in other parts of the country. The Oklahoma bill would grant immunity to motorists who accidentally hit and kill or injure a person while the motorist is fleeing a riot. Oklahoma law defines a riot as, quote, any use of force or violence or any threat to use force or violence if accompanied by immediate power of execution by 3 or more persons acting together and without authority of law. The measure passed by the Senate would also increase penalties for people who block traffic during a protest. They could be charged with a misdemeanor and sentenced up to a year in prison. The bill's author, Senator Rob Standridge, says the bill was prompted mostly by an incident in Tulsa last summer in which a pickup drove through a crowd gathered on a Tulsa interstate while protesting the death of George Floyd. Several people were injured, but the driver was not charged. Oklahoma Democrats argued before the vote that the bill could lead to the punishment of innocent bystanders or peaceful protesters. The bill now awaits the governor's signature. As more people get fully vaccinated against COVID-19, you might wonder how long a vaccine will protect you. With each flu season, you have to get a new flu shot to be protected against the latest strain of the flu virus. But with the COVID-19 vaccines being so new, research is continuing to determine how long the vaccine protects you. According to local health officials, current data says the vaccine may be effective up to 1 year out. There's also another concern that people who are fully vaccinated getting an antibody test right after. One health professional we spoke with says that's not a good idea.
And there's a reason why that is not being recommended, i.e. that you measure antibodies, because then you start being doubtful, like, oh my God, maybe I need a third shot or another kind of vaccine. I have received a Pfizer or the Moderna. Maybe I need the Moderna if I got the Pfizer vaccine.
Dr. Escura says that's because research right now says you typically have antibodies only after a recent COVID infection. And because of the way the vaccine works, it may not show up on an antibody test. Missouri lawmakers are considering setting aside a day each January to honor the late Rush Limbaugh. The Cape Girardeau native gained national fame before he died in February at age 70 after a battle with cancer. A Missouri Senate committee this week debated legislation to designate January 12th, Limbaugh's birthday, as Rush Limbaugh Day. A similar proposal is pending in the House. Joplin school officials yesterday broke ground on site of the future Dover Hill Elementary School. The new school will combine Columbia and West Central Elementaries into one. The property was donated to the district by the Economic Security Corporation. The construction is being paid for through a $25 million voter-approved bond.
Well, we're going to be building Dover Hill Elementary School. It's about 70,000 square feet. It has 18 classrooms, as well as what you would expect in an elementary.
Officials expect the construction of the school to be complete by the start of the school year this fall. His name was Gerard Pendergraft, but many people knew him as Dude, the dude behind Dude's Donuts on Main Street in Joplin. Pendergraft passed away earlier this week. He and his wife started Dude's Donuts in 1954, but Dude's son says that's only part of his legacy.
He had very strict moral code that he lived by, and his faith in God. And I would say that's probably the most important thing that he's passed on to me and to my children.
Gerard Pendergraft was also a corporal in the U.S. Army stationed in Germany from 1952 to 1954. A funeral service is scheduled for Friday at 10 a.m. at the 26th Street Church of Christ in Joplin. It's 5:07.
Increasing cloud cover as we head toward the noon hour. Only going to have temperatures in the upper 50s, low 60s later on this afternoon. So might be jacket weather here all throughout tomorrow. We've got rain. It's going to kick in overnight as it moves in from the west, and it's going to be a chilly Friday as well. Give you an idea of what Future Track has in store and what our time frame here. Probably about 9-10 p.m. is when we pick up from the west, and unlike this last several days where the rain has stayed down to the south, this is going to be pretty widespread. Gets a little uptick in the intensity there around mid-morning and then carries us all through the afternoon and evening hours. 7-day forecast with highs only in the 50s on Friday and Saturday.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, 4 Coral Junction student athletes signed yesterday to continue their careers in college. We'll hear from some of them playing at the next level. Plus, new recommendations for new and expecting mothers when it comes to getting vaccinated. And after 20 years of war, President Biden announced the withdrawal of all remaining U.S. troops in Afghanistan. We'll have reaction from lawmakers. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Four Coral Junction student athletes signing yesterday to continue their careers in college. 2 of them moving on to cheer, while the other 2 will continue to play baseball at the next level. Maggie Brown and Jade Smith signing to continue their cheer careers. Brown going to Pittsburgh State and Smith to Southwest Baptist. On the baseball side, got Carson Johnson, who is headed off to Ottawa University in Kansas. And Noah Southern, well, he's going to run down to Oklahoma to play for the NEO Golden Norsemen.
Today's kind of been overwhelming. It's been one of those days that I'm excited, but at the same time it's the end of this chapter of my life and to go on to the next and hopefully come out with my dream to further my baseball career after college too.
They gave me a pretty good offer to play and a pretty good chance to play right away, and felt pretty close to home and better than going halfway across the state, so it was pretty good.
Pittsburgh High School softball team off to a hot start this season, and behind that start, a young roster, hot bats, and early season chemistry.
The Pittsburgh Purple Dragons are 6-2 through their first 8 games.
The only thing better would be to start off 8-0. Sure would like to have one of those games back and maybe be 7-1, but we'll take 6-2 right now.
My freshman year, we had a little rough season, and it was more on the losing side, and it is so much more fun to win and have a good team and everyone know about us and hear about us, and it just feels great.
Pittsburgh does not have a single senior on the roster. Their lineup is made up of freshmen and a big group of juniors who have stepped up to lead the way.
It's been easy for us to take on that role. When seniors are there, juniors always feel like they need to step back a little more, but with us we have a great group of juniors that need to take role and lead each other, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Each and every one of them brings a different leadership quality that benefits the whole team.
You're not just kind of like loping around, we're going to do this because we're supposed to, because you want to. Own it.
We've had a freshman third baseman, a freshman shortstop, which is incredible, and our freshman pitchers, they do great.
Chemistry has been key.
Everyone knows that we like each other, we're going to be there for each other.
We win together, we lose together, we run together, we laugh together, we cry together. It's all of us all in all the time for each other.
Say it loud. If I don't hear it, it don't happen.
And their offense has been big as well, posting 10 runs per game.
One of our big goals every game is to take the pressure off of us and put it on the other team. And so when you get on the board first, it takes the pressure off. You're able to play a little bit more relaxed and focus a little bit better.
We always tell our pitchers, we'll back you up defensively, we'll get you offensively. So just having everything and putting it all together, it's really helped us out.
With their hot start and a young core, the Dragons have high expectations for not only this season, but next year as well.
What a unique position for Pittsburgh softball to be in at this point in time. Great junior leadership, great sophomores on our team, great freshmen. The future's bright. Yeah, future's great for these girls. I know they're super excited about what they're doing right now.
4-4-4. There we go.
We're not playing the best softball that we're going to play all season, so if we can go 8-0 down the stretch at the end of the season, I'll take that.
That story brought to you by our own Jacob Leonard, of course. Pittsburgh back on the field next Tuesday against Columbus. Major League Baseball, Royals trying to take a series from the Angels yesterday. Salvador Perez off to a hot start. Solo home run, already got 3 this year and gives the Royals an early lead. Later, Perez goes Gappa. That's going to score Whit Merrifield all the way from first base. Perez 2 for 4, drives in those 2 runs. Kansas City wins at 6-1. Don't look now. Royals are 6-4 this season.
Straight away,
not that good
and
of
the
a day for
3-2
the St.
pitch.
Louis Cardinals, wrapping up the series with the Washington Nationals yesterday. Ryan Zimmerman off the Adam Wainwright curveball. Washington goes up 2. Meanwhile, Cardinals having a tough time putting the ball in play. Only managed 4 hits. All Nationals in this one. Your final score, 6-0. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, inching ever so closer to the 2021 Summer Olympics.
COVID is affecting the countdown to the Olympics. I'm Ian Lee with how the pandemic will shape this summer's games.
And to check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. 5:17 is where we stand on this Thursday morning. Sounds like a perfect time for a little weather on the 7s. 45 degrees outside of Television City right now, 45 in Joplin as well. Cooler up to the northwest. Iowa still waiting to get to the 40-degree mark. Much better down to the south. Miami sitting right now at 48. That being said, we do have frost advisories up to the north. Pretty handful of our counties, but pretty extensive when you consider runs all the way past the North Missouri state line. We also had just little light rain down to the south, hasn't amounted to much. Winter storm warnings all the way north of Kansas City right there. And that's part of a system that's working itself out of the Rockies. Red flag warnings down the deep southwest and then through Louisiana and the Gulf. Whole bunch of flood warnings with what they've had past couple of days, so they continue to get pounded. Little ridge of the jet stream going to slowly creep over us, just a weak high pressure system. Does kind of keep the rain at bay until tomorrow, or tonight into tomorrow. Highs today though, it's going to be cool, high 50s, low 60s as the increased cloud cover creeps toward us when it gets to the noon hour, and then overnight here comes the rain as it works in from the west. Give you an idea of what Future Track has in store. It'll develop out by the panhandles and through central Kansas later on this afternoon. Like I said, we're not going to have much trouble here during the daytime, but by the time 9, 10 o'clock rolls around, that's when we begin as it comes in from the west and then intensifies as we push into early Friday morning. That band right there, much more widespread than what we've had past couple of days as well. Really lasting from about the Red River all the way up to Nebraska. We just find ourselves right in the middle of it. As it clears off Friday night, Saturday becomes a little bit more scattered, certainly not as widespread, but still cool. Severe thunderstorm risk map does have most of it staying out to the west and then down to the south as well. Remember, you get that very light green. That's simply thunderstorm activity. So really it's just going to develop into April showers there as it moves across into southwest Missouri. Chilly on Friday and Saturday, only in the low 50s. Sunday, at least we get a little taste of some sunshine, mid-50s, and then Monday, finally back to some 60-degree weather. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. Big announcement from the White House yesterday. President Biden saying he's withdrawing all remaining U.S. troops in Afghanistan. Leaves many people wondering if the Afghans can stop the Taliban and Al-Qaeda from regaining power across the globe. White House correspondent Kristen Fisher with the story.
Was it a hard decision to make, sir? No, it wasn't. To me, it was absolutely clear.
After 20 years of war, more than 2,000 Americans killed, and nearly $1 trillion spent, President Biden says it is time to bring all American troops home from Afghanistan.
It's time to end America's longest war.
Speaking from the same room where former President George W. Bush announced those first U.S. airstrikes in Afghanistan in 2001, President Biden announced a complete withdrawal by 9/11 of this year.
I'm now the fourth United States president to preside over American troop presence in Afghanistan. 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. I will not pass this responsibility on to a fifth.
Republicans and some Democrats argue it's dangerous to telegraph any date to the Taliban, but especially that one.
Apparently, we're to help our adversaries ring in the anniversary of the 9/11 attacks by gift wrapping the country and handing it right back to them.
But President Biden believes a conditions-based withdrawal would keep U.S. troops in Afghanistan indefinitely.
We cannot continue the cycle of extending or expanding our military presence in Afghanistan, hoping to create ideal conditions for the withdrawal and expecting a different result.
The White House press secretary was pressed if there was any chance President Biden would delay the withdrawal if the situation on the ground deteriorated.
No, he remains committed to the timeline that he intends to set out in this speech.
President Biden, unfortunately, has chosen the highest risk option available, which is to leave no matter what.
No U.S. troops have been killed in Afghanistan since the Trump administration struck a peace deal with the Taliban. The deal called for a withdrawal of U.S. troops by May 1st. Now President Biden has pushed it back to September 11th. Regardless of the date, the head of the CIA warned on Capitol Hill today,
when the time comes for the U.S. military to withdraw, the U.S. government's ability to collect and act on threats will diminish. That's simply a fact.
It is a decision that will almost certainly come up when President Biden delivers his first address to a joint session of Congress. That date has now been set for April 28th. That will be President Biden's 99th day in office. Our question on the Facebook page and our morning Instapoll. Should the United States pull all of its troops out of Afghanistan? Let us know why or why not. And take part in our Instapoll by going to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. We'll get to your responses and your poll results in a bit. Health Watch is next.
Topping Health Watch this morning with the pause on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine in the U.S., a new recommendation for pregnant and postpartum women when it comes to getting vaccinated for COVID-19. Mandy Gaither has more.
Hours after a pause on the U.S.'s only single-dose COVID-19 vaccine, a new recommendation by the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, the group encouraging pregnant and postpartum women who wish to get vaccinated to either get the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines, which are designed differently, rather than the Johnson & Johnson vaccine if it becomes available again.
Pregnancy itself is a risk factor for blood clots. So when you think about that, the serious side effect we're talking about is blood clots, anything you can do to reduce that risk makes sense.
The CDC and FDA called for a pause in the use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine out of what the agencies called an abundance of caution after more than 6.8 million doses of the vaccine were administered in the U.S. 6 cases were reported of a rare and severe type of blood clot in women ages 18 to 48. It's still unclear whether the vaccine was the cause.
We do know this is an exceedingly rare complication. It's about 1 in a million. Which is good because it is a serious complication. So we also know that most of these blood clots occurred within 2 weeks from receiving the vaccine. So if you're already past that 2-week mark, you're probably in the clear.
But Atlanta-based OBGYN Dr. Sujatha Reddy says pregnant women who have gotten the Johnson & Johnson vaccine should listen to their bodies, seek medical help if they experience any symptoms which could include severe headache, abdominal pain, leg pain, or shortness of breath. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists said its recommendation is being made until there's what they called a better understanding of the frequency and impact of this finding and whether it's linked to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And that's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Sunrise 6:43, gradually increasing cloud cover with a little light rain currently down in northeast Oklahoma. Just light raindrops at that. Highs only going to be in the high 50s, low 60s later on today with a northeast breeze, and we still have a frost advisory for our counties to the north. until about 9 a.m. We know the rain is a-coming, and it will formulate late tonight and take us all the way through Friday. Much more widespread than what we had earlier this week. We also end the week on a chilly note. We're going to be in the low 50s for Friday and Saturday. Finally, a little sunshine and small bump in temperatures on Sunday. Of course, you can always find the latest on the Skywatch weather app.
Oklahoma lawmakers advance a bill that would provide protections to people who run over protesters blocking roadways. Plus, the COVID vaccine may require a booster shot, what the current data suggests, and Missouri lawmakers consider designating a Rush Limbaugh Day in January.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. You've got one more day to get that outdoor activity or yard work, whatever you want to call it, done, because the rain is going to start moving in very quickly. Here's Michael with a check on your forecast.
Thank you, Tanya. As we take a live look outside of Television City, 45 degrees, and as Tanya alluded to, we got one more day before we're going to have widespread showers. We are picking up a lot of light precipitation down there through northeast Oklahoma. Clouds kind of sporadic, but they are going to increase as we head toward the noon hour, and a handful of our counties up to the north with a frost advisory lasting all the way until 8 a.m. The result of temperatures ranging anywhere from 38 in Iola, a pair of 41s in Fort Scott and Nevada, where we see those frost advisories in the north. Compare that to 46 in Anderson, Neosho, Miami. Joplin right now sits right in the middle at 45. The cold front has pushed all the way down into southern Arkansas. Little weak high pressure system hanging over us, and that's what's going to keep us quiet for today, but it's going to be a cool one. Only going to make it up into the high 50s, low 60s, probably jacket weather here earlier today. Now, Future Track has the rain developing through the panhandles and out in western central Kansas for the afternoon hours. It's on us by the time we get to about 9, 10 o'clock on the western portion of southeast Kansas. Going to last all the way through Friday. Look at that big band rolling in there just in time for the morning drive tomorrow, and then turns over on itself, gets a little more scattered on Saturday morning. Cool temperatures, they don't want to budge, as we're going to have low 50s back-to-back days on Friday and Saturday. Finally, a little peak of sunshine, mid-50s on Sunday.
Right. Looking forward for this rain to move in. We need it, then move out, and then temperatures sometime soon warm back up.
Next week's looking a little bit like a roller coaster there temperature-wise, isn't it?
It's gonna
Here,
be
there, and everywhere.
kind of hit or miss. Got a lot of sporting activities next week.
It's going to be tough to, it's not widespread rain next week. Bundle up if you're a spectator, though. I know the kids don't care being out on the field, but sitting up there in the bleachers.
Yeah.
Or back of the pickup truck, as some of us do.
In your lawn chair, bundled up with a blanket over you.
Yes.
And your heavy wool coat. Oh wait, that was me last Tuesday night.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
I needed some of your long underwear. It was cold. All right, thanks, Michael. The Oklahoma Senate passes a bill centered on protests, igniting controversy as demonstrations continue in other parts of the country. The Oklahoma bill would grant immunity to motorists who accidentally hit and kill or injure a person while the motorist is fleeing a riot. Oklahoma law defines a riot as, quote, any use of force or violence or any threat to use force or violence if accompanied by immediate power of execution by 3 or more persons acting together and without authority of law. The measure passed by the Senate would also increase penalties for people who block traffic during a protest. They could be charged with a misdemeanor and sentenced up to a year in prison. The bill's author, Senator Rob Standridge, says the bill was prompted mostly by an incident in Tulsa last summer in which a pickup drove through a crowd gathered on a Tulsa interstate while protesting the death of George Floyd. Several people were injured, but the driver was not charged. Oklahoma Democrats argued before the vote that the bill could lead to the punishment of innocent bystanders or peaceful protesters. The bill now awaits the governor's signature. As more people get fully vaccinated against COVID-19, you might wonder how long a vaccine will protect you. With each flu season, you have to get a new flu shot to be protected against the latest strain of the flu virus. But with the COVID-19 vaccines being so new, research is continuing to determine how long the vaccine protects you. According to local health officials, current data says the vaccine may be effective up to 1 year out. There's also another concern that people who are fully vaccinated getting an antibody test right after. One health professional we spoke with says that's not a good idea.
And there's a reason why that is not being recommended, i.e. that you measure antibodies, because then you start being doubtful, like, oh my God, maybe I need a third shot or another kind of vaccine. I have received a Pfizer or the Moderna. Maybe I need the Moderna if I got the Pfizer vaccine.
Dr. Escura says that's because research right now says you typically have antibodies only after a recent COVID infection. And because of the way the vaccine works, it may not show up on an antibody test. Missouri lawmakers consider setting aside a day each January to honor the late Rush Limbaugh. The Cape Girardeau native gained national fame before he died in February at age 70 after a battle with cancer. A Missouri Senate committee this week debated legislation to designate January 12th, Limbaugh's birthday, as Rush Limbaugh Day. A similar proposal is pending in the House. Joplin school officials yesterday broke ground on the site of the future Dover Hill Elementary School. The new school will combine Columbia and West Central Elementaries into one. The property was donated to the district by the Economic Security Corporation. The construction is being paid for through a $25 million voter-approved bond.
Well, we're going to be building Dover Hill Elementary School. It's about 70,000 square feet. It has 18 classrooms, as well as what you would expect in an elementary.
Officials expect the construction of the school to be complete by the start of the school year this fall. The Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce is connecting local entrepreneurs over 1 million cups of coffee. The Coffee Fueled program was developed by the Kauffman Center. Chamber says its purpose is to, quote, educate and connect local entrepreneurs, innovators, funders, and other interested community members to discover solutions.
I think that this organization, 1 Million Cups, is a great program for anybody starting a business or anyone who's an entrepreneur. Just putting yourself out there and being a little bit vulnerable and getting some feedback from the community. Maybe someone sitting in the audience has been where you are.
1 Million Cups is a weekly event. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, April is National Foot Health Awareness Month. We hear from a local expert on why people often overlook the importance of taking care of your feet. Plus, the Olympics are in jeopardy once again. Why some are calling on Japan to cancel the Tokyo Games just 100 days away from the opening ceremony. But first, 5:37.
Low increasing cloud cover as we head toward the noon hour. Temperatures only in the high 50s, low 60s. Staying dry until tonight. That's when the rain moves in from the west. Be back with World Watch next.
Topping World Watch, we're inching closer to the Summer Olympic Games in Tokyo. Despite being postponed for a year and an upsurge in Japan's COVID cases, officials say the show will go on. CBS's Ian Lee reports from London.
When Japan won the right to host the Olympic Games, it sold itself as a safe pair of hands. Nearly 8 years and a pandemic later, nothing is safe and nothing is certain.
We have COVID-19 spreading in Tokyo. We have medical professionals here questioning why the games are going on, saying it's too big a risk.
A new wave of COVID cases even forced the torch relay off public roads. But with 100 days to go and roughly $15 billion invested, Olympic officials say the games will go on. Just expect them to look different.
There'll be no fans from abroad here. Athletes will be in quarantine most of the time.
Hundreds of American athletes will join roughly 15,000 competitors from around the world.
They are absolutely 100% focused on preparation for games that should happen and that they believe will happen.
Olympians don't have to be vaccinated, but will be given hand sanitizer and masks. Officials hope that will be enough to get the games to the finish line. Ian Lee, CBS News.
Up to 80% of people in Japan want the games to be canceled or delayed, especially with less than 1% of the country vaccinated. Today marks 2 years since the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral caught fire, causing severe damage, and it spiraled to collapse. President Emmanuel Macron has said he plans to reopen the landmark by the year 2024. However, because of the coronavirus pandemic, reconstruction efforts have stalled. Britain's Queen Elizabeth II returns to royal duties following the death of her husband, Prince Philip. The Queen attended a retirement ceremony for a senior royal official on Tuesday. Meanwhile, final preparations are underway for Prince Philip's funeral Saturday at St. George's Chapel on the grounds of Windsor Castle. Only 30 people will attend due to coronavirus restrictions. The royal family began a 2-week period of mourning last Friday after the death of the 99-year-old prince was announced. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Let's toss it over to Michael for something to talk about.
Thank you, Tanya. On the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, President Biden announcing the full withdrawal of U.S. troops in Afghanistan, ordering all remaining 2,500 of them to withdraw beginning May 1. Our question to you, should the U.S. pull out all troops from Afghanistan? We'll kick our comments off with Andrew Stanford. Andrew says, considering we went there to fight Osama bin Laden and the Taliban after 9/11, absolutely. Osama has long been dead, and last I checked, the U.S. and the Taliban signed a peace deal, so bring our troops home. Dave Sorek says, I don't know anything about the foreign policy implications of setting a deadline. Trump had set May 1 of this year as a target to complete the drawdown. Will this be considered a delay, Dave asks? What will happen on the 20th anniversary of 9/11/01? Rocky Cunningham says, yep, bring them home. But I think it's shameful how Sleepy Joe's using 9/11 as some kind of PR stunt. Setting that as a date to pull out is a slap in the face to all the families who lost loved ones on that horrible day. As far as our Insta poll goes right now, 88% of you say yes, the U.S. should pull all the troops out of Afghanistan. You can make your voice heard either on our Facebook page or taking part in the Insta poll. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Be back with the news you need to know before you head out the door right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. In Minnesota, protesters turned out again last night after Brooklyn Center's mayor called for calm in the wake of Daunte Wright's shooting death by a former police officer. A prosecutor announced a second-degree manslaughter charge against Kim Potter. The 26-year police veteran shot and killed Wright during a traffic stop on Sunday. The former police chief, who also stepped down, said Potter mistook her gun for a taser. A scientific committee advising the government on vaccines says it needs more time to evaluate the risk associated with Johnson & Johnson's coronavirus shot. That comes after the FDA and CDC called for a temporary pause in using the single-dose vaccine nationwide on Tuesday. 6 women, one of whom died, are known to have come down with an extremely rare blood clotting disorder after receiving the vaccine. As more people get fully vaccinated against COVID-19, you might wonder how long a vaccine will protect you. Each flu season, you have to get a new flu shot to be protected against this latest strain of the flu virus. But with the COVID-19 vaccines being so new, research is continuing to determine how long the vaccine protects you. According to local health officials, current data says the vaccine may be effective up to 1 year out. And the Oklahoma Senate passes a bill centered on protest, igniting controversy as demonstrations continue in other parts of the country. The Oklahoma bill would grant immunity to motorists who accidentally hit and kill or injure a person while the motorist is fleeing a riot. The measure passed by the Senate would also increase penalties for people who block traffic during a protest. They could be charged with a misdemeanor and sentenced up to a year in prison. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Oh, cool and cloudy Thursday at hand. Clouds are just going to increase as we head toward the noon hour. That slows us from any type of warm up. We'll go high 50s, low 60s a little bit later on this afternoon. Big change happens overnight. What we'll do is turn our attention out to the west, as far west as the Panhandles and west central Kansas, because that's where the rain begins to formulate during the afternoon hours. Not going to be on us until after sunset. Say about 9, 10 o'clock is when we see it encroach upon the far western counties of southeast Kansas. As it pushes through past midnight into Friday morning, got a good little band right there coming through just in time for the Friday morning commute. And this thing is going to keep on keeping on. We're going to have rain all through the afternoon and evening hours tomorrow. Finally tapers off by the time we get to Saturday, but temperatures don't want to go anywhere. It's going to be low 50s on both Friday and Saturday. Finally comes Sunday, we get a little peak of sunshine, make it up into the high 50s. That frost that we had earlier this morning, well, it's going to stick around because look at those overnight lows consistently dropping down to the 30s all the way to next week. Speaking of next week, little bit of a roller coaster right there, as we got everything from the mid-60s down to the mid-50s. Be right back after this. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on this Med Day Thursday. April happens to be Foot Health Awareness Month, and that's where we're fortunate enough to be joined by one Lindsay Rollins. Lindsay, right now, is a key player at Mercy Joplin and been there about a year. Is that right, Lindsay?
That's right. I came over from primary care about a year ago, and I am so happy to be here. We have a great team here, and I love to heal wounds, which is what we do here at Mercy Wound Care.
Well, Lindsay, with this being the first time that we've had you on Med Day Thursday, I want to thank you for all your time. My first question for you is just for a little background for everybody. How did you get involved in wound care, and where did you see the importance and why you wanted to be a part of it?
Well, you know, it's kind of a funny story. It's never something that I actually sought after. Wound care wasn't. But I'm certainly a believer in the hand of the Lord in the life. And so I was just presented with an opportunity after a couple of years in primary care. I was looking for a place to land after getting some really good baseline experience in that area. And now I will say it's where my heart is. This community is full of wounds that need help, wounds that aren't healing with maybe just antibiotics or putting on a simple bandage. So it's absolutely my pleasure to learn a little bit about all of the different things that go into why a wound isn't healing and how we can address each one of those things.
Lindsay, I'm so happy to hear that you found your calling. That is tremendous. Now, when we talk about wound care in particular, April is about foot health awareness. And to some people, they may be like, what's the big deal? So I've got something on my foot that isn't healing correctly. Yeah, just throw some Neosporin on it and call it good. Until we realize this can lead to long-term problems.
Absolutely. And it's so funny that you give that example, because I probably have that exact example in my office at least a few times a week. It was just something on my foot. What was the big problem? I just put Neosporin on it. I thought that would be fine. Covered it up. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind, right? Our feet, we cover up with socks, we cover up with shoes. We don't really think about it until sometimes it's too late. But my goal is to prevent an issue so that we don't get to that point where it's too late and then we're ending in amputations. But you're right, our feet are huge. I mean, think about what you do every day, and that will differ a little bit for everybody, right? But most people are on their feet. And so we need them to be healthy so that they can allow us to do whatever it is that we do. And a lot of times there is either a callus on our foot or maybe a small wound. But if that's not healing or not showing signs of improvement within 1 to 2 weeks, there's probably an underlying problem. And it really needs to be addressed so that we can prevent things like, I always say, the quality of life goes down with an open wound that requires advanced wound care.
Let's talk about being proactive. Early detection, it's a key factor in healthcare. And when it comes to the diabetic population here in the 4 states, what are some of the things that anybody, but specifically diabetics, need to pay attention to when it comes to their feet and when to seek help and ask about wound care treatment?
And I'm glad you asked, because that's so huge. And like you said, specifically in our diabetic patients, we see that these patients, for multiple reasons, tend to be at high risk, 1 for ulcers and 2 from the complications that we see from ulcers. So there's 2 really big things that I really push when we're talking about prevention. The first thing is looking at your feet. It sounds so simple and it sounds silly, but it's kind of like your back. We don't ever see our back, we don't think about it. Think about when the last time is that you looked at the bottom of your feet. Most of the wounds that we see are going to be on the bottom of the feet, where you can't see them. And most of our diabetics can't feel. So somebody might say, well, that's silly. If you have an open wound on the bottom of your feet, it's going to hurt. You're going to know it's there and you're going to look at it. Well, not necessarily the case, especially in our diabetic patients. They can't feel. So they lose their body's ability to identify when something is wrong.
Lindsay, you have a unique treatment system at Mercy Joplin. It's a hyperbaric chamber. Do you have time to stick with us, come back a little later in the show and kind of dive into that?
I would absolutely love to.
Lindsay Rollins from Mercy Joplin, and we're going to check back in with her. Great knowledge that she's going to provide about hyperbaric treatment, and we'll have that coming up in just a little bit. More KOAM Morning News for you when we return. Relatively clear start for this Thursday morning, but we're going to have clouds that increase as we progress toward the noon hour. And temperatures stuck in the low 60s, even high 50s up to the north where we have frost advisories. As we work overnight, here comes the rain. It'll be here on our western counties about 9, 10 o'clock, and it's going to carry us all through the night into Friday morning. Widespread rain. Everybody's going to get a taste of it here by the time Friday's over. Picks up just in time for the morning drive, lasts all the way into the afternoon and evening hours. Becomes more scattered on Saturday. Big factor for Friday and Saturday because we're not looking at anything severe. No big thunderstorm activity. It's just going to be cold and wet. Look at these temperatures stuck in the low 50s on Friday and Saturday. Sunday, a little bit of a rebound. At least we get some sunshine, mid 50s. But speaking of those frost advisories that we have up to the north, let's get ready for the frost to stick around because our overnight lows consistently dropping down into the 30s until we get to next week. Now, when we do get to next week, Monday's not looking too bad, but then we got another cold front that comes in with additional rainfall just in time for the middle of the week.
Oklahoma lawmakers advance a bill that would provide protections to people who run over protesters blocking roadways. Plus, the COVID vaccine may require a booster shot, what the current data suggests, and Missouri lawmakers consider designating a Rush Limbaugh Day in January.
The 4 states most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News at 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. Enjoy a little bit chilly day today, but at least the rain isn't here yet. Here's Michael with a check on your forecast.
That's right, Tanya. One more day before we've got widespread April showers starting at 44 degrees right now. There goes some morning commuters outside of Television City. A little bit of a wind chill in effect, with just a few raindrops there in northeast Oklahoma. Most of the 4 states looking clear on this morning, but the cloud cover is going to increase as we head toward the afternoon hours. Frost advisories in effect for a handful of counties in our north. The reason being, temperatures all the way down into the mid to high 30s for those towns involved in that. Compare that to 44 in Joplin, 45 in both Anderson and in Miami. The cold front sinking all the way down into southern Arkansas is forcing the majority of the rain all the way down to the Gulf Coast as we have a weak high pressure system sitting over us on this morning. Now, as the high pressure moves over us, that's why we get the increased cloud cover, and eventually we're going to be talking about some rain here. Not going to make its way until we get to tonight. Formulating out to our west, about say 9, 10 o'clock is when we pick up in earnest, and it's going to be widespread. Everybody's going to get a taste of the precipitation, really looking at anywhere from probably about 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch by the time it's done. Good one right here, working in for tomorrow morning's ride to work. Limited thunder and lightning, and really not worried about the possibility of any hail or high wind. We kind of stay out of the mix as far as the severe thunderstorm risk map goes. As Tanya said, it's going to be chilly on Friday and Saturday. Chilly and wet. Sunday looking like our best bet to get back outside and do something, and that's only 55. That's about 15 degrees below normal for the middle of April.
No kidding. Wow. Yeah, it's gonna
come on, 70s, come back.
Yeah, I'm ready for spring to get here again.
While I'm thinking about it, because we do have the frost advisories up to the north, I'd go ahead and keep the plants inside because look at those overnight lows, ducking down to the 30s.
Anytime you're in the 30s, care about those new plants you just dished out the dough for?
I always think about that the week after Easter because I know, I know people like to.
Well, especially if they're potted plants and they're not in the ground.
Right.
They don't have that root system to protect them. So.
Good point.
And they're easy to move if they're potted, usually. All right, thanks, Michael. The Oklahoma Senate passes a bill centered on protest, igniting controversy as demonstrations continue in other parts of the country. The Oklahoma bill would grant immunity to motorists who accidentally hit and kill or injure a person while the motorist is fleeing a riot. Oklahoma law defines a riot as, quote, any use of force or violence or any threat to use force or violence if accompanied by immediate power of execution by 3 or more persons acting together and without authority of law. The measure passed by the Senate would also increase penalties for people who block traffic during a protest. They could be charged with a misdemeanor and sentenced to up to a year in prison. The bill's author, Senator Rob Standridge, says the bill was prompted mostly by an incident in Tulsa last summer in which a pickup drove through a crowd gathered on a Tulsa interstate while protesting the death of George Floyd. Several people were injured, but the driver was not charged. Oklahoma Democrats argued before the vote that the bill could lead to the punishment of innocent bystanders or peaceful protesters. The bill now awaits the governor's signature. As more people in the area get fully vaccinated, you might wonder just how long the vaccine will protect you. KOAM's Chris Warner spoke with 2 local health officials on what the current data suggest.
Larry Bergner with the Newton County Health Department says right now data is showing positive results on the effectiveness of the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines.
So far, what I've read in research data has shown that both the Pfizer and the Moderna, once you have that 2-shot, you've completed the 2-shot series, you're upwards of 97% immunized and effective against the coronavirus.
Bergner says the latest data he's looked at suggests we'll be able to take a booster shot yearly, and he says some research says it may even be every 2 years. Dr. Eden Esquera is the infectious disease specialist at Mercy Hospital in Joplin. She's been looking at the latest research as well. Dr. Esquera says although there's not any published data right now, the research is looking promising.
I'm very confident that there will be a lot of published data soon. But I would venture to say that it will be like the flu vaccine now, that we will be getting like a booster shot every year or at a definite interval.
She says there's a new trend among those that have been vaccinated that's causing concern. Some people are getting antibody testing done once they're fully vaccinated. Dr. Esquera says that's not a good idea.
And there's a reason why that is not being recommended, i.e. that you measure antibodies, because then you start being doubtful, like, oh my God, maybe I need a 3rd shot or another kind of vaccine. I have received a Pfizer or the Moderna. Maybe I need the Moderna if I got the Pfizer vaccine.
That's because research right now says you typically only have antibodies after a recent COVID infection. And the way the vaccine works, it may not show up on an antibody test. I'm Chris Warner for KOAM News.
You can find the latest vaccine information for your area at KOAMnewsnow.com. Missouri lawmakers consider setting aside a day each January to honor the late Rush Limbaugh. The Cape Girardeau native gained national fame before he died in February at age 70 after a battle with cancer. A Missouri Senate committee this week debated legislation to designate January 12th, Limbaugh's birthday, as Rush Limbaugh Day. Similar proposal is pending in the House. Joplin school officials yesterday broke ground on the site of the future Dover Hill Elementary School. The new school will combine Columbia and West Central Elementaries into one. Property was donated to the district by the Economic Security Corporation. The construction is being paid for through a $25 million voter-approved bond. Scientists at the Kansas Polymer Research Center at PSU envision a world powered by soybeans. They've created a process that converts soybean biomass into batteries. Soybeans are plentiful in our part of the country. A grant from the Missouri Soybean Merchandising Council funded the research.
Super excited and very supportive, and such type of research cannot be performed without support, so our admins and our leaders are very supportive to these ideas, which helps to promote eco-friendly materials and batteries for industries, basically. Other materials we grow here.
Soybeans are the #1 crop in Missouri and among the top 10 crops in Kansas. 6:07.
And we've got sunrise at 6:53 on this 43, excuse me, on this Thursday morning. It's been a nice clear start. Stars are just absolutely gorgeous right now. And take advantage of it because we've got increasing cloud cover as we head toward the noon hour. Temperatures only in the low 60s. Remember, widespread rain begins tonight, takes us all the way through Friday.
Let's look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, turning social media into a stage.
Nights and improv aren't the only way for comedians to get noticed. I'm Kate Smith with the new way comics are sharing jokes.
Plus, why health experts worry hesitancy surrounding vaccines will increase. And we hear from a local health expert on the importance of proper wound care. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. In Money Watch this morning, with comedy venues and clubs mostly closed during the pandemic, comedians found a new place to share their work: social media. Comics say it might not be a fad, but a way of the future. Kate Smith has more.
Any of you guys working in an office?
Shannon Fiedler was just getting started in stand-up.
Working in an office means listening to people talk about what day it is every single day. Can you believe it's only Tuesday? Oh my God, happy Friday! Like TGIF.
And then the pandemic hit.
And then every comedy club in every place in the world shut down. We have been watching basketball all day.
With clubs and venues closed, Fiedler started recording herself and sharing jokes online, like this video with more than 2 million views on TikTok.
I do have pets, yeah. I have 2 golden retrievers and a horse.
She's among thousands of comic hopefuls who've turned social media into a stage.
As comedy clubs begin to reopen, some comics say that sharing jokes online isn't a pandemic fad, but a way of the future.
How long have I been trolling? Ooh, let's see here. I started in the 80s with chain letters. Those were fun.
After years of doing open mics, Taylor Wolfe started sharing her comedy online, even before the pandemic.
Hey girl, who's not gonna cry today? Not you.
With an audience in lockdown, her account exploded, jumping to more than 250,000 followers.
My friends in the stand-up world were like, wait, how do you do these videos? How did you get followers? People are realizing there's more than one way to break into the world of comedy.
I was leaving my company's virtual WeWork draft kombucha happy hour.
That was the ticket for Jack Martin. Last year, his viral videos landed him a Hollywood agent.
This is the most important moment of my life so far. You're the 80th person I met today, and I already forgot your names.
And a role on an upcoming network drama.
How responsible is social media for where you are right now?
I mean, I would not be here without social media.
His advice for aspiring comedians and actors: ditch the classes and download TikTok. Kate Smith, CBS News, New York.
Bernie Madoff has died. The man who ran the most infamous Ponzi scheme in recent history was 82 years old. He spent his final years behind bars at a North Carolina federal prison for his nearly $20 billion swindle. He started his investment business with $5,000 in savings and set up shop in New York in the 1960s. He served as head of the NASDAQ in the 90s, and his list of clients grew to include celebrities, high society, charities, and lifelong friends. Well, making sure even its toy cars have a smaller carbon footprint, Mattel's iconic Matchbox cars are getting an eco upgrade. In an effort to get kids thinking about the environmental impact of driving, the toys will not only be almost entirely sourced from recycled materials, but will be designed to mirror hybrid cars that are currently on the market. Matchbox's first hybrid-inspired model is the Tesla Roadster. Just make sure they're in really cool colors. That's what my kids like. Cool colors, cars that look cool. Yeah. Well, dating with kindness. That's what Facebook is aiming at. Aren't we all? As it tests a video speed dating feature, the app Sparked is described as video dating with kind people. It will allow users to speed through 4-minute dates, and unlike other dating apps, Sparked will not have public profiles. Exchange of contact information will be suggested if users enjoyed the first round of video calls.
Everything's better with kindness.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Well, you got 4 minutes. Why you gotta be rude? Come on, just be nice. That's it for Money Watch. Let's go to Michael for the weather.
Tony, this is kind of a cool shot of our satellite arrays. We got a while until sunrise, but look, just starting to illuminate just a little bit right there. I thought that was kind of neat the way they show up kind of orange. We got a wind chill in effect on this Thursday morning. It's not much of one, but a little cool outside. 39 degrees is what it feels like, an actual temperature of 44. Look at these temperatures up to the north right there, ranging from 35 to 39, and so that's why we've got a frost advisory for a handful of counties indicated in purple right there. The frost advisory is actually stretching all the way past the Missouri-Iowa state line. A little light rain through northeast Oklahoma hasn't amounted to anything. These clouds actually going to increase. It's kind of a nice clear start with a weak high pressure system hanging over us. Temperatures today only high 50s, low 60s. Remember, tonight rain kicks in 9-10 o'clock out to the west and takes us into a chilly widespread rain and wet Friday. Be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on this Med Day Thursday. Earlier, we're fortunate enough to be joined by Lindsay Rollins of Mercy Joplin. And Lindsay was kind enough to come back because I had some additional questions, with April being Foot Health Awareness Month, because Mercy has a very unique treatment, a hyperbaric chamber. Lindsay, people may know the phrase, they may not know what it looks like, they may not know what it does. What's your elevator speech, and how do you explain hyperbaric treatment to patients?
Absolutely, that's a great question, because when somebody says hyperbaric oxygen treatment, that sounds like a lot. But basically what it is we have a clear tube that you're put in, and don't sound claustrophobic. We can talk about that in a minute if you want to. But basically what we're going to do is, in that tube, we're going to put you in 100% oxygen, and then we're going to put pressure into that oxygen. And there's a lot of science that goes into it, but basically what it comes down to is, in a nutshell, is that we can get more oxygen to your ulcer. And we know that oxygen helps healing. So as we increase the amount of oxygen in your body, our bodies are so fascinating. It knows where that oxygen needs to go, and it'll go to the wounds that we're trying to heal, so that we increase the ability to heal these wounds.
And I do want to talk about that claustrophobia effect and kind of the process of it. But before we get there, I would like to ask you, who qualifies for hyperbaric treatment?
Great question, and sometimes, and we get this a lot, so I'm super glad that you asked that. It's kind of a falsity that anybody can qualify for hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So we follow, in our center, we follow the Medicare guidelines for who is approved to go into the hyperbaric oxygen therapy. And what this means is there's research to prove that this is beneficial. But 3 of the most common are diabetic foot ulcers, but not just any diabetic foot ulcer. We call it a Wagner grade 3. And really what that means is there's an infection in the deep space, or there has been with that same ulcer. So a Wagner, a diabetic foot ulcer that has had a deep infection, candidate for hyperbaric oxygen, if it's not healing within 4 weeks of us treating that with what we know will heal wounds. So those diabetic foot ulcers are great candidates. They can go into the chambers. Our refractory osteomyelitis. Super big word. What does that mean? Infection in the bone. So any ulcer that has had an infection in the underlying bone, and that's been treated, and the infection has came back, that also meets criteria. A third one that's a common one is a radiation, soft tissue radionecrosis. What does that mean? Somebody has had radiation, usually for cancer, to an area. We know that radiation really kind of obliterates those small blood vessels. Somebody gets an ulcer in that same location, they need a little bit more help with the oxygen that the hyperbaric oxygen can provide.
All right, so Lindsay, I've got a friend, a relative, a loved one who meets those 3 criteria that you were talking about, but at the same point in time, they're apprehensive, they're afraid, because they've heard it's a tube, they've heard it's compression, they've heard it's 100% oxygen. How do you assuage those fears?
Absolutely. That's a wonderful question, and it's a question that we get a lot. So I'm super happy that you asked that, so I can address that. The first thing that I would talk about is we are here for you. We are here for your loved one. We are here to make you feel comfortable and to address every facet of wound healing. So the first thing is to come meet us, get established with us, so that we can form that relationship, so that when you have fears, when you have questions, when you have concerns, we're here to answer those questions and those concerns. The second thing is hyperbarics. It sounds super scary. It really isn't. One thing to kind of think about is you have an ulcer. What are you willing to do to heal that ulcer? If you're going into the hyperbaric oxygen chambers, if you meet those criteria that we talked about, then there's an underlying problem. It's not going to heal with antibiotics. It's not going to heal with some of the more simple things. So we really need that to increase the healing potential.
Yeah, I've even known some people, Lindsay, that have taken naps in there. They get so comfortable. Lindsay Rollins from Mercy Joplin. Lindsay, I want to thank you so much for not only everything that you do for our wound care patients, but just taking care of the 4 states in general, and for joining us on this Med Day Thursday.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, a vote yesterday to determine when the Johnson & Johnson vaccine would resume did not happen. Putting it off now has health experts worried hesitancy surrounding all vaccines will increase. CBS News' Laura Podesta has the latest on the fallout.
An emergency meeting at the CDC to discuss the extremely rare blood clots possibly associated with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine ended without a decision on when the shots can be given again.
I just don't feel that was enough information to make an evidence-based decision.
We're in a situation where not making a decision is tantamount to making a decision. The most at risk will remain at risk.
That inaction will likely extend the pause of the single-dose vaccine for at least another week. And even though the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine should cover most of the shortfall, mobile vaccination buses, like this one in Colorado, found it easier to deliver the J&J vaccine to rural communities.
It's a one-shot vaccination. So then we can put our efforts into going to more places rather than having to come back around and do a second vaccination.
Out of more than 7 million doses already administered, 6 women came down with a rare blood clotting disorder. One of those women died.
Right now, we believe these events to be extremely rare, but we are also not yet certain. We have heard about all possible cases.
Health experts are now concerned that the J&J fallout will make more people hesitant to get vaccinated. A national poll from Monmouth University says about 1 in 5 Americans are unwilling to get any shot. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Also worth noting, doctors used the blood thinner heparin to treat 4 of the 6 women reported to have those clots. But experts say that drug can be dangerous in patients with the type of clotting found in the J&J recipients. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Beautiful, clear Thursday morning start, but we've got clouds that are already developing out to the west, and they'll just keep on increasing as we get toward the noon hour. A little northeasterly breeze and temperatures in the high 50s, low 60s. The big development is what happens tonight as the rain moves in. It's widespread, anywhere from 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch by the time we're done with Friday, because it's going to last pretty much all day long, and it's going to be chilly, only in the 50s.
Salon service.
Oklahoma lawmakers advance a bill that would provide protections to people who run over protesters blocking roadways. Plus, the COVID vaccine may require a booster shot, what the current data suggests, and Missouri lawmakers consider designating a Rush Limbaugh Day in January.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. Enjoy a little bit chilly day, but you know what? It could be much colder. Michael Hayslip joins us with a first look at your forecast.
And unfortunately, Tanya, it will be. But what a gorgeous Thursday morning start that we have outside of Television City now that we've been able to illuminate our satellite arrays. Temperature right now at 44 degrees. We do have a little bit of a wind chill in effect. Only feels like it's 39. Just about done with our light rain that we had in northeast Oklahoma. We are going to see the cloud cover increase as we progress through our day. Cold up to the north, frost advisories lasting all the way until 8 a.m. and still in the 30s, ranging from Iola, Fort Scott, and Nevada. Compare that to the 44 we see in Joplin and 45 in Miami. A cold front is now pushed all the way into southern Arkansas. A weak high pressure system hanging over us, going to keep us quiet for the duration of our Thursday until we get into the nighttime hours, and that's because with the increasing clouds out to the west, we're going to have rain activity. Now, we'll keep our eyes on it this afternoon. Afternoon here is going to be fine. Just the afternoon is when it's going to begin to build out there through the panhandles, central Kansas, and then on us, say about, in earnest, 8, 9 o'clock out in the western edge of southeast Kansas. Push past midnight. It's going to be widespread, and it's going to keep on keeping on all the way from Friday afternoon into the evening hours. Looking at accumulation numbers anywhere from 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch by the time Friday is done, and chilly too. I'm going to be stuck in the low 50s there on Friday and Saturday. Saturday's rain more scattered, not going to be certainly as widespread as what we'll see on Friday. Everybody's going to get wet on Friday. And then Sunday, a little chance to dry out, but still relatively cool, only 55.
Yeah, can't complain too much about the temperatures today, considering it's about to get a little bit colder.
Good. And those overnight lows, look at that.
Man, I've been
furnace is
trying
coming back
not to
on.
use my furnace. Hey, at least we won't have to use our AC. Put it that way.
Thank you for the silver lining.
There you go.
Yes.
We'll keep it cool. All right, thanks, Michael. The Oklahoma Senate passes a bill centered on protests, igniting controversy as demonstrations continue in other parts of the country. The Oklahoma bill would grant immunity to motorists who accidentally hit and kill or injure a person while the motorist is fleeing a riot. Oklahoma law defines a riot as, quote, any use of force or violence or any threat to use force or violence if accompanied by immediate power of execution by 3 or more persons acting together and without authority of law. The measure passed by the Senate would also increase penalties for people who block traffic during a protest. They could be charged with a misdemeanor and sentenced to up to a year in prison. The bill's author, Senator Rob Standridge, says the bill was prompted mostly by an incident in Tulsa last summer in which a pickup drove through a crowd gathered on a Tulsa interstate while protesting the death of George Floyd. Several people were injured, but the driver was not charged. Oklahoma Democrats argued before the vote that the bill could lead to the punishment of innocent bystanders or peaceful protesters. The bill now awaits the governor's signature. Well, as more people get fully vaccinated against COVID-19, you might wonder how long a vaccine will protect you. With each flu season, you have to get a new flu shot to be protected against the latest strain of the flu virus. But with the COVID-19 vaccines being so new, research is continuing to determine how long the vaccine protects you. According to local health officials, current data says the vaccine may be effective up to 1 year out. There's also another concern. That's people who are fully vaccinated getting an antibody test right after. One health professional we spoke with says that's not a good idea.
And there's a reason why that is not being recommended, i.e. that you measure antibodies, because then you start being doubtful, like, oh my God, maybe I need a third shot or another kind of vaccine. I have received a Pfizer or the Moderna. Maybe I need the Moderna if I got the Pfizer vaccine.
Dr. Esgura says that's because research right now says you typically have antibodies only after a recent COVID infection. Because of the way the vaccine works, it may not show up on an antibody test. Missouri lawmakers consider setting aside a day each January to honor the late Rush Limbaugh. The Cape Girardeau native gained national fame before he died in February at the age of 70 after a battle with cancer. A Missouri Senate committee this week debated legislation to designate January 12th, Limbaugh's birthday, as Rush Limbaugh Day. A similar proposal is pending in the House. Joplin school officials yesterday broke ground on the site of the future Dover Hill Elementary School. The new school will combine Columbia and West Central Elementaries into one. Property was donated to the district by the Economic Security Corporation. The construction is being paid for through a $25 million voter-approved bond.
Well, we're going to be building Dover Hill Elementary School. It's about 70,000 square feet. It has 18 classrooms, as well as what you would expect in an elementary.
Officials expect the construction of the school to be complete by the start of the school year this fall. Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce connects local entrepreneurs over 1 million cups of coffee. The Coffee Field program was developed by the Kauffman Center. The chamber says its purpose is to, quote, educate and connect local entrepreneurs, innovators, funders, and other interested community members to discover solutions.
I think that this organization, 1 Million Cups, is a great program for anybody starting a business or anyone who's an entrepreneur, just putting yourself out there and being a little bit vulnerable and getting some feedback from the community. Maybe someone sitting in the audience has been where you are.
1 Million Cups is a weekly event. His name was Gerard Pendergraft, but many people knew him as Dude. The dude behind Dude's Donuts on Main Street in Joplin. Pendergraft passed away earlier this week. He and his wife started Dude's Donuts in 1954, but Dude's son says that's only part of his legacy.
He had very strict moral code that he lived by. And his faith in God. And I would say that's probably the most important thing that he's passed on to me and to my children.
Gerard Pendergraft was also a corporal in the U.S. Army, stationed in Germany from 1952 to 1954. A funeral service is scheduled for Friday at 10 a.m. at the 26th Street Church of Christ in Joplin. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. 2 high-profile trials in Minnesota.
The former police officer who shot and killed 20-year-old Dante Wright will make her first court appearance on Thursday. I'm Skylar Henry in Minnesota with more and the latest as the defense continues to make its case in the Derek Chauvin trial.
Plus, for our Something to Talk About, we're asking, should the U.S. pull all of its troops out of Afghanistan? We'll let you weigh in. But first, it's 6:37.
We are only 5 minutes away from sunrise over the 4 states, officially at 6:43 in Joplin. Increasing cloud cover toward the noon hour. Cool temps as we find ourselves only in the 60s today and waiting for the rain to arrive late tonight and carry us through Friday. We'll be back with Nation Watch next.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, the former police officer who killed Dante Wright will make her first court appearance today in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Just south in Minneapolis, the trial for the former officer involved in George Floyd's death continues. CBS's Skylar Henry is there with the latest in both stories.
Police fired chemical spray at protesters outside the Brooklyn Center Police Department last night. The 4th straight evening of demonstrations.
Cease your unlawful behavior and disperse.
While rallies remained mostly peaceful during the day, about 24 people were eventually arrested. Protesters are demanding justice for Dante Wright, who was killed during a traffic stop Sunday. Officer Kim Potter allegedly mistook her taser for her firearm and shot Wright. She since resigned and is now charged with second-degree manslaughter.
At what point did you not feel that this was a gun in your hand versus a taser?
Potter was released from jail after posting bond and will make her first court appearance later today. Meanwhile, just a few miles south here in Minneapolis, the murder trial of former police officer Derek Chauvin continues.
I do.
A retired forensic pathologist took the stand for the defense on Wednesday. Dr. David Fowler said George Floyd's death was not a homicide.
All of his injuries were in areas where the knee was not.
The prosecution argues Floyd died because Chauvin's knee was pressed against his neck area for more than 9 minutes. They did get Fowler to admit Floyd should have been helped when he went into cardiac arrest.
There was a time when he may have been revived because he wasn't dead yet.
Immediate medical attention for a person who's gone into cardiac arrest may well reverse that process, yes.
It's still unclear whether Chauvin will take the stand. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Minneapolis.
The judge turned down a defense request to acquit Chauvin, rejecting claims that prosecutors failed to prove Chauvin's actions killed Floyd. In Dante Wright's death, former officer Potter could receive a maximum of 10 years in prison and a $20,000 fine if convicted. A scientific committee advising the government on vaccines says it needs more time to evaluate the risk associated with Johnson & Johnson's coronavirus shot. That comes after the FDA and CDC called for a temporary pause in using the single-dose vaccine nationwide on Tuesday. 6 women, one of whom died, are known to have come down with an extremely rare blood clotting disorder after receiving the vaccine. That's a look at today's top national stories. Let's check back in with Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, President Biden announcing the full withdrawal of U.S. troops in Afghanistan. Asking how you feel about that. We'll resume with Guy Hansen. Guy's first graph was about the drugs and the natural resources of Afghanistan, but I want to get down to graph 2. It's past time to get out. We have our own battles to fight in this country where we might have a chance to actually accomplish something good. Other countries and terrorists will fight over Afghanistan and filter back in as the U.S. withdraws. When the indigenous people stand up for themselves and the entire world unites against terrorism, then the tides will turn, not before. John Trebian, he says no. Keep a small group rotating in and out because we know what happens if children are left alone with matches. Joe Biden's made too many mistakes already. He needs to be impeached. Good morning, KOAM. Good morning, America. Good morning, John. Michelle Pacini, good morning, KOAM. And Mama, good morning, Michelle. There's no right answer to this question, sadly, Michelle says. Have a blessed day, everyone. Shane Webb says, no, we shouldn't. Do we need to rotate them out every few months? The answer is yes. Our troops do not need to be there a year at a time. As soon as we start showing weakness, they will start planning another attack. Biden already makes us look weak, and the military has no respect for him as it is. As far as our morning Insta poll goes right now, a resounding 91% say yes. The United States should pull all of its troops out of Afghanistan. You can make your voice heard either on our Facebook page or vote at KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Be back, celebrate birthdays and anniversaries next.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Arthur Stanton, who served in the United States Navy. He served from 1943 to 1946. His hometown, Southwest City, Missouri. We are proud to salute Arthur Stanton, our four-state hero.
Our birthday list off in Carthage. Oh, tell you what, that dude right there, he's looking forward to some sunshine and temps in the 70s, isn't he? Clinton Martin. Happy birthday to you, Mr. Clinton. Sun's out, guns out. I love it, dude. He's 6.
All right. And we've got Wyatt Whitley turning 13 years old this year. Happy birthday to Wyatt in Chanute.
Who that is? Hey, a good picture right there. Actually caught him smiling. Huh, how about that?
I take it that doesn't happen too often.
How about that? Cassid, happy birthday, my man. Mean a lot to the family, and especially one important friend of yours. I want you to have a marvelous, marvelous birthday, young man.
All right.
Take care of my daughter.
Oh, there's more to this story here. Okay. I got some questions when we get to commercial break. Okay, in Chanute, Shayla Anderson turning 31 years old. Looking great there, Shayla. Happy birthday.
Dustin Ogle has a 42nd birthday. Uh-oh. We got one in the arm, and then look at the one behind.
A very jealous one.
I know.
On the ground.
Like, wait a second. Where are my hugs on your 42nd birthday? Spreading the love is Dustin Ogle. Happy 42 in Fredonia.
You're next, Michael. Yvonne Gideon turning 56 years old. What a great picture there of Yvonne. Happy birthday.
Rhonda McMillan, a happy 57th birthday to you. I know that, sure. That's a great picture there, Rhonda. She's celebrating in Chanute.
All right. And Charlie Diskin in St. Paul. Nice smile there on Charlie. Happy birthday.
Rose Burns, happy birthday to you, Miss Rose. She is in Cherokee. And Amanda Lee celebrating a birthday. Happy birthday to Amanda in Pittsburgh. A happy birthday and happy anniversary to all. Casting, you know I'd just like to give you a hard time. Here's Sonia Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club. All you have to do is go to our website and sign up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Gorgeous start outside of Television City now that we have officially just passed sunrise. 44 degrees. It is a little bit chilly out there. It only feels like it's 39 right now. Going 44 in Joplin, 45 in Welch. Want to pay attention to these temperatures up to the north where we're still sitting in the 30s. So no surprise, we've got mid-April frost advisories stretching all the way from the central four states all the way north past the Missouri-Iowa state line. A little bit of cloud cover. Lost our rain through northeast Oklahoma. Pay attention out to the west right here because number one, that's where our clouds will increase for the duration of our Thursday. Number two, that's also where the rain will begin to formulate here later on this afternoon. Won't be on us until later tonight, however, because ridge of the jet stream with a weak high pressure system hanging over us as it moves off to the east. That allows the cloud cover to move in. So increasing coverage as we move toward the noon hour. Just about overcast here for the afternoon and evening. Let's talk about the development out to the west. Look at the panhandles up through west and central Kansas. Really, it's not going to be on us in earnest till about 9, 10 o'clock on the western edge. But as we turn Thursday into Friday, it's going to be widespread. And we got this one right there coming through just in time for the Friday morning commute. Not going to be a short affair. Take us all the way through the afternoon and evening hours of Friday, and a chilly one at that. Only going to see low 50s here on Friday and Saturday. Still need to watch the plants. I wouldn't put them outside as of yet. Those frost advisories liable to expand with our overnight lows that drop back down into the 30s. Finally, we get a little rebound on Sunday. Still chill in the air, though. That's 15 degrees off where we normally be. And then we can begin to rebound there on Monday. We'll be back. Wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News right after this. Pick up some more comments here. Casey Haugerty says, Biden is further gone than the reason to be there. Jan Lawless says, another stupid move, big mistake without a watchful eye. They became more dangerous to the U.S. And Jeff Reed says, if the world feared us like they did the last 4 years, then yes, but they don't. So it'll be a sign of weakness rather than a sign of power and dominance. Appreciate all your engagement this morning. One final look at the Insta poll. We've got 85% of you that say yes, the U.S. should pull all the troops out of Afghanistan. And remember, we'll continue to update not only the comments, but our poll results that you can take part in by going to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Tanya?
All right, here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. In Minnesota, protesters turned out again last night after Brooklyn Center's mayor called for a calm in the wake of Daunte Wright's shooting death by a former police officer. A prosecutor announced a second-degree manslaughter charge against Kim Potter. The 26-year-old police veteran shot and killed Wright during a traffic stop on Sunday. The former police chief, who also stepped down, said Potter mistook her gun for a taser. A scientific committee advising the government on vaccines says it needs more time to evaluate the risk associated with Johnson & Johnson's coronavirus shot. That comes after the FDA and CDC called for a temporary pause in using the single-dose vaccine nationwide on Tuesday. 6 women, one of whom died, are known to have come down with an extremely rare blood clotting disorder after receiving the vaccine. As more people get fully vaccinated against COVID-19, you might wonder how long a vaccine will protect you. With each flu season, you have to get a new flu shot to be protected against the latest strain of the flu virus. With the COVID-19 vaccines being so new, research is continuing to determine how long the vaccine protects you. According to local health officials, current data says the vaccine may be effective up to 1 year out. The Oklahoma Senate passes a bill centered on protests, igniting controversy as demonstrations continue in other parts of the country. The Oklahoma bill would grant immunity to motorists who accidentally hit and kill or injure a person while the motorist is fleeing a riot. The measure passed by the Senate would also increase penalties for people who block traffic during a protest. They could be charged with a misdemeanor and sentenced to up to a year in prison. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Final look at our day planner with the increasing cloud coverage and a little northeasterly breeze. Enjoy anything you need to do outside today, even with it kind of becoming overcast there by the afternoon hours, because remember, tomorrow, here we go. Anywhere from 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch, as it's going to rain pretty much all day long on Friday, and it's going to be chilly. Not only Friday, but Saturday as well. Low 50s. Whoa. Hey, slip sound effects.
Yeah, I was like, do that again. All right, this is something good when it's cold. Well, coming up today at noon, we're making Uncle Sam's pulled pork in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
I like that. He's on a roll lately with
all of his recipes this week have looked excellent. Yes.
I like that. Morning news continues on KOAM. We got the CBS Morning News. That's coming up next.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues.
And we'll continue to update any progress on the severe thunderstorm risk map. Right now, we're not looking at anything severe for Friday. But of course, as we progress through the day and watch that develop out to our west, we'll kind of keep everybody in tune as far as what we've got. And not going to be surprised if we don't have the reemergence of some frost advisories headed into the weekend as well. Wraps it up for this Thursday edition. Have a great, safe day. Enjoy some fresh air. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.
Lander Chevrolet